The Fortress of Nerditude this week will be absent of Steve Maduro once again. Steve was with his family attending to his ill father and is doing some things that he needs to do and take some time to do that. We support him in this time. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family, and we hope for a speedy recovery of his father. As always, we will continue to go forward and have a good show, and we hope to see him again soon. Are you ready to do this, Josh?
I'm ready to do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Josh Stapleton.
Yo, yo.
We're two best friends and brothers that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 63. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and any other podcast app you could possibly think of. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Josh, welcome back to the podcast. How are you, my brother?
I'm good. It's been a little while since I've been on the podcast. Definitely a step down from Steve, and definitely miss him, but glad to be here.
If you're looking for me to reassure you like you're not a step down from Steve.
I'm not looking for that at all.
I mean, I could, but I'm not going to be honest.
I know where my place is.
I am super happy that you're here with me tonight and that you're willing to fill in. Obviously, Steve's doing other stuff and he's doing what he needs to be. He will return. But in the meantime, we've had some really good people step in. Johnny Casino filled in for me. Brita was here last week, which was kind of a lot of fun to do. And then you're here with me this week, and I'm excited to have you once again.
Yeah, you've had some good guests for sure. That Casino guy's not half bad, and neither is Brita. I
mean, 1 out of 2 I like.
Hopefully Brita doesn't listen to this.
Love you, dear. I promise. So, Josh, each and every week we get caught up. What have you been up to? What is new? What is going on in your life?
Well, I don't know that there's necessarily... I mean, there have been some cool things this week, but, I'm going to go back just a little bit further because we just got back about a week and a half ago from a 10-day trip at Disney World. And
Did you win the NBA championship and that's why you went there?
I mean, maybe, but being that I'm a Bulls fan, I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
No, not really.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Definitely fun yet exhausting all at the same time. And just getting back into the swing of things. The week, I can't say each and every week is as exciting as Disney World. I coach my son's basketball team, so I came back and, none of those kids will listen to this, so I will just openly say they are terrible. Terrible. This is, I want to say this is my I think it's my 5th season coaching. 4th year, maybe 5th season, because there's 1 year I coached, back to back. We went from one city to another city. And this is by far my worst team. I don't, being that they're young kids, I don't yell at them a ton, but I come as close as possible with youth kids to losing it as you could, because this is the first year. In the past, I got to step back. In the past, the kids all wear colored wristbands to help them know who they're guarding. So if you have a red wristband, you guard the kid on the other team with a red wristband. And so this is the first year now that Andrew is in 4th grade where they take those away and you just have to go out and pick someone. And so I've been trying to work with the kids on the team, like, hey, you have to make sure you're talking with your teammates. You have to make sure you know who you're guarding. I kid you not, the game last Wednesday, there was at least 2 people open almost the entire game on the other team, no matter how many timeouts I took, no matter how many times I said, okay, guys, when you get out there, you have to make sure you know exactly who you're guarding. And it didn't sink in for a couple of these kids. I mean, there are a few that, were decent defenders, but there are a couple kids that were just, it's like the kids out in the soccer fields that are picking dandelions, like they had no idea what they were doing. And so that was kind of frustrating, but...
I have this mental image, Josh, of you being like the Bobby Knight of like youth basketball, where you're just like, you're trying to hold your rage in, but like the second they turn their backs, you're going to be like throwing chairs out on the court, like, come on, you got to be kidding me with that crap.
Well, so here's like that. Here's the dilemma.
Just don't choke a kid. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, obviously. They're young kids, so you don't want to get on them too much, but you want them to learn. You want them to have a mix of having fun and also learn principles that will carry them on as they get older in basketball. So like some of the things we do in practices, like we worked on, pick and rolls and boxing out and we're trying to do a little more than just shooting, dribbling, passing, and basic defensive stance. Nothing too in-depth, but trying to teach them just a little more of these basic principles. And I know in practice, a lot of the things that we'll work on till I'm blue in the face, I know that once the games start, it's kind of all out the window, just because we don't have enough practice time and they're young, so it's not all going to sink in. But the hope is
they're not picking up the shake and bake routine.
No, but even like pick and roll is really it's a lot. It's hard for them to get down. There was 1 or 2 picks set in the last game, and so that's something. I don't think a single kid ever boxed out, even though we did that drill for like 20 minutes in our last practice. But anyways, the hope is that someday it'll eventually sink in. But the hard part is I don't want to get on them too much, but you yell so that they can hear you out on the court. But I'm always a little leery of yelling too much, thinking, oh man, some parents are going to get mad that I'm, getting after their son. But when their son's like on the opposite side of the court from everyone else, and I'm like, down there, it just doesn't always sink in. So there's that. That's part of my...
Do you ever get the angry parents that are like, why are you yelling at my kid? Or why aren't you playing my kid enough minutes? Or that kind of stuff too?
Surprisingly not. I thought I would have more of it for how much I've coached. I'm generally...
Or is it just that the kids suck this bad this year?
Oh,
is the parenting where they're like, we're just happy that he's getting out of the house and doing something?
Maybe. Part of me worries that they're going to think that I'm not teaching them anything in practice. But, how do you say, like, I'm teaching them, your kid's just as smart as a box of rocks.
Send them home with homework, man. Give them like a little playbook. And like, this is how you pick and roll.
Okay,
take that home. Learn it.
So there's this one kid that he plays defense like he's a free safety in football. Wherever the ball goes, he runs to him and he just runs into kids. And I called the timeout, and all the kids play equal time. It's not a matter of like overplaying one kid over another. At this age, it's all equal. Every 4 minutes, there's substitutions. But I called the timeout. I pulled this kid over, and I just said, "Hey, you have to stick with your man the whole time, even if the ball goes away." And he goes, "Okay, got it." Very next play, he goes running after the ball. So when he came out and subbed, I was like, dude, I'm not going to be able to play you if you just keep playing this way. And he was getting a bunch of fouls. Well, he eventually fouled out by about 2 minutes into the second half. And I was like, sorry, dude, you can't run into people and you have to stay, on your man. But anyways, so those are kind of the interesting quirks of 4th grade basketball. But so there's that. Nothing else really exciting during the rest of the week except for the weekend. But maybe I'll leave that for you to share since
something happened over this weekend.
I thought I might have ran into you. So
we did spend a little bit of time. So I'll kind of jump into the weekend and then we'll go from there. But this last weekend, Gabe Patillo from Married to the Games, member of Diverse City with Toby Mack, is on tour. He came through Salt Lake City, Utah, and anytime he comes out here, he hits us up and lets us know, and whatever free time he's got, I go hang out with him, right? Because he comes through here maybe once every other year, and we're buds. He's been on the show before. He was on the episode where we talked about The Last Jedi, and we had a ton of fun. Gabe's a great guy. he's an entertainer through and through, just a lot of fun. And so he was coming into town. He hit me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to be here in 15 minutes, 20 minutes." And I was like, "All right, I'm on my way." And so I went down and I picked up Gabe and his buddy Sammy, who's on tour with him. Sammy's a preacher out of Ohio. And during the concert, he talks about helping feed kids in Africa, kids that are in need. But he's also a big video gamer. And so, Gabe's a video game guy. You are Josh, Sammy is. And so I picked up Sammy and Gabe and we went up to a local wing place and got some chicken wings and we're just kind of hanging out. And then you didn't think you were going to get to come and show up. But in the last minute, you got someone to watch the kids, and so you came, and then a kid named Jacob Peterson, who started just recently listening to the Married to the Games podcast, he came and met us. And then we went and kind of did what we normally do when Gabe comes to town. We went to some video game shops, and we looked around, and then we haggled and got a price down on some video games at one shop, which is exactly what we did last time. So I picked up The Witcher 3 with all of the DLC for $35. And Gabe picked up the newest Resident Evil game for $25. So
yeah, not bad.
Not a bad pickup.
Yeah, I got to say a couple things. Yeah, so I really didn't know literally until the last minute if I was going to be able to hang out prior to the concert because it was a Saturday and my wife works every Friday night at the hospital. And so when she gets home, normally about 9 in the morning, she goes right to bed. So I had all 4 kids, and that was stressful because I really did want to hang out, but was glad to get that taken care of. And then the other thing I wanted to make note of is just give a little shout out to Sammy. When Sammy did his bit during the concert about, I think it's called Food for the Hungry. Is that the real name? Maybe. I bet
maybe Food for the Hungry, Food for the People. Something.
I think it was Food for Hungry. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. But basically, the idea is that you donate money each and every month, and it goes to a child in need, and it can be a child anywhere in the world. And I gotta say, it really did pull on my heartstrings a little bit when he was talking about about how he was sponsoring this kid and he wanted to make sure that it was legit. So him and his wife literally hopped on a plane and flew to Africa and met this kid in person. And then he showed some pictures on the screen of him playing soccer with this kid. And while, we donate through our church in ways that helps the needy, if you don't have, something, a way to donate already, this would be a great option. So just a little shout out to him. If you're looking for a way to help others, I believe it is Food for the Hungry, but just Google it and it'll bring it up. Yeah. Definitely a great cause.
Yeah, great cause. And Sammy's a great guy. And you could tell he had a passion for what he's doing and a passion that translates easily. You know how you hear sometimes people trying to I don't want to use the word sell you, but try to encourage you to give to this charity or give to that charity. And there's just people sometimes that you hear them and you're like, yeah, he doesn't sound like he's very convincing. But Sammy, he lives what he preaches, right? I mean, because he went there, he did that. He went to Africa and met the kid and, sponsoring them. And I think he said he's sponsoring a number, maybe six kids.
Yeah. 6.
And so on top of actually getting to meet him and hang out with them for at the afternoon and part of the evening, he's just a great guy. And so yeah, I had a lot of fun meeting him, and I got his PSN ID, so we're gonna hook it up and play some Overwatch, some evenings here in the near future. But the cool thing was we also got to go backstage and meet Toby Mac, and that was a lot of fun. And if you don't know Toby Mac, I tell people he's like the Christian Justin Timberlake, because he was part of the band DC Talk, and they were a big kind of group, and they were, real popular. And then they broke up, and he became the big solo artist from that group. And he's won Grammys, and he's been all over the place, and he's won all sorts of awards and accolades. And he puts on a very, very, very entertaining, fun show. This never has really been my big genre of music, but I gotta admit, I really enjoy his show, and I really enjoy his music. It's a lot of great dance stuff, a lot of, hip hop and stuff that makes you, want to get up out of your seat and, dance and sweat and just have a good time. And then, of course, we got to see our friend on stage, Gabe, and Gabe's out there, he's singing, he's rapping, he's playing the drums, he's playing the trumpet, he was everywhere.
Right.
And I know he's also like the creative director and like did kind of like all the stage stuff in the show and like helping design all that and, helping work with all the opening acts and like arranging all the stuff for the tour. And so it's just it was cool to see a friend of ours, someone we know, not only performing, but just like helping to put on this great thing. And so if you have a chance to see Toby Mac in concert, I'd recommend it, man. It's a good show.
Yeah, for me, I would have to say my preferred genre of music is going to be, grunge, alternative, hard rock, and even I'm really big into a genre that most people don't even know about, but European progressive metal is one that I really like. So they don't really fall in the same camp as Toby Mac's. I mean, Toby Mac's a little bit of everything, but it's definitely Christian, like I said, Christian hip hop, rock. They do a little bit of reggae, a little bit of everything. However, I will say when I started listening to Married to the Games, years ago now, and I found out that Gabe was part of Toby Mac's band, part of Diverse City. I checked him out, and I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. And I got to admit, I listen to Toby Mac all the time. I have a number of his albums, and I don't think my iPhone has a play count on it. If it does, I'm not aware of it, but it's got to be right up there. So this was my third time seeing them. Show gets better each and every time. I've seen them twice now in Salt Lake City. I saw them once in Chicago, which just this wasn't planned this way, but I happened to be there visiting family the same time they were. So yeah, it's always good to see Gabe. It's always a fun time hanging out, and then definitely the show is great. So yeah, I echo that sentiment. If you can go, definitely go.
Yeah, and I know we're kind of going on and on about this. This show is not sponsored by Toby Mac, but it was fun to see a friend. But you can get tickets at tobymac.com. Ding. Little plug for our friends there.
Tell them, Tobes.
You tell them, Tobes. Yeah, I heard that. That made me laugh so hard. That's a little inside joke, anyway. Other than that, like the Super Bowl obviously was yesterday. And I don't know about you, Josh, but we didn't do a big party. We just kind of stayed home and like the kids watched some stuff and played some stuff. And I recorded it on the DVR. So I kind of started it a little late to kind of get through some of the pregame. And I got to be honest, for me, because I don't care about the Patriots and I don't care about the Eagles at all, one way or another. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I didn't care. I got to the point where I found myself fast forwarding through parts of the game because I knew that this was going to be a very, let's say, light defense, as in the defense didn't show up for either team until like the end of the fourth quarter. And it was just kind of a shootout to me. That's just kind of how it felt. It was like, and one team's going to march down and kick a field goal or get a touchdown, and then they're going to back and forth. And I kind of got bored during the game portion of it.
See, I was quite the opposite. I mean, normally for us, we try and do a Super Bowl party where, the food is based around one of the cities in the game. So like years ago, I guess it was like, I don't know how many years ago it was now, 10, 12 years ago when the Bears were in the Super Bowl.
2005. That was 13 years
Was it 2005? Dang.
2005, 2006.
Yeah. 2006. So anyways, when they were in it, we did deep dish pizza. Last time Patriots and Eagles were in it, we did Philly cheesesteak. So we
Boston baked beans, huh?
No, we just did Philly cheesesteak.
Okay.
So we just try and pick not necessarily even the team we're rooting for, but we just try and pick one of the teams that their city has, interesting cuisine and go with it. This year was different. Like I said, being a weekend, my wife was working, so I had for dinner some nice cinnamon toast crunch.
Okay.
And ended up watching the game on rabbit ears because we got rid of our cable a little while back. And that kept cutting out. So then I was hopping online to watch it on my computer. So, I mean, it wasn't exactly the best viewing experience while I was trying to put kids to bed on my own. But I thought the game was really exciting, especially, not having a horse in the race, so to speak. So I enjoyed it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like it was a close game, man. Defense wins championships. And if it hadn't come down to a key fumble or a stripping and a sack fumble on Brady right there at the very tail end of the fourth quarter, I think the Patriots would have come back down the field, would have scored, and the Patriots would have won. Because there literally was like no defense the entire game, at least from my perspective.
Right. I know that's the old adage that defense wins championships, and I know this isn't a sports podcast, but I agree with that in a lot of sports. I don't know that I agree with that necessarily in football. In football, a great quarterback tends to win more often than a great defense wins.
I don't know, man. Those 85 Bears.
Yeah, 85. Exactly. 85.
But I'm still saying the Monsters of the Midway, probably one of the greatest defensive teams ever.
And it's not saying a great defensive team can't win. There was the Ravens 10, 15 years ago that they won. I can't even remember who their quarterback was. He was terrible. He's a broadcaster on ESPN now. I can't even think of his name, but he was terrible. The Bears, I guess, in 2005 with Grossman. I mean, they had a great defense and a horrible quarterback if they didn't win. But overall, you're going to see elite quarterbacks in the Super Bowl more than anything.
All right, well, you can keep kissing up to Tom Brady all you want. I'm sticking with my Bears defense all the way.
Dude,
defense wins championships.
At 40 years old, I would take Tom Brady on the Bears in a heartbeat.
Well, so would I. But
I mean, the dude passed for 500 yards. So, anyways, let's be done with football talk.
Defense wins championships. I'm just saying. I mean, other than that, like, man, that was kind of my week. I did get a chance to talk to Steve for a little while this week and kind of get an update on how things are going, and that was good because like Steve and I have just kind of really been talking over text messages, for the last few weeks, and so we actually got a chance to talk for a little bit on Saturday morning, and I got to hear him, getting after his kids about cleaning up and doing their room captain stuff, and so that was good. It was good to actually hear from him, and we really hope to get him back real soon. But in the meantime, we're going to roll forward, Josh, and we're gonna keep this train a-rolling. What do you say?
Yeah, and I'll just say this real quick about Steve. I know anyone that listens to your podcast knows that you guys are best friends, but I think it can't be overstated that Steve is family.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this on the way over. I'm happy to fill in for Steve and to let him not have to worry about this. I was just texting him yesterday as well. But all the important memories I have from growing up, all the big major life events, Steve's always there. And even just the small little things. I remember there was, and I don't know if this has been mentioned on your podcast before or not, but I remember there was a summer where I literally would wake up, go downstairs, and Steve would be on the couch. And if he wasn't, I would look around as if something was wrong. And I remember one time saying to Dad, "Where's Steve?" Like, I was literally confused. Like, why isn't he here? And he didn't live in our house, but he basically did. So yeah. Steve not only is a family friend, but he is definitely family. So hope to get him back on here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I love my brother. Well, let's get on to the Rebel Intelligence, Josh. What do you say?
Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Josh, we're into Rebel Intelligence, my favorite part of the podcast, and most of yours as well. What do you have for me this week, Josh?
Okay, well, this is kind of fitting because in anyone who's seen Doctor Strange, great movie, won't go into a whole lot there, but we kind of going back to your episode last week, we had Groundhog Day, and so it's fitting that a fan finally discovered a hidden Easter egg in Doctor Strange. And what it is basically is when Stephen Strange, that's his name, right? See if I'm getting that right. When he gets in the accident that kind of leads to all the progression of him becoming who he ends up becoming in the movie, it happens on Groundhog Day.
Really?
And so that was something that no one really noticed until someone on Twitter took a screen grab of his watch, and sure enough, February 2nd. So
do you think that's like a little nod to the idea of like the movie Groundhog's Day where, Phil Connors needs to like learn a lesson in order to progress with his life? And kind of the same thing with Stephen Strange?
I mean, it totally is. And, as he learns to manipulate time, I mean, you look at how he, I don't know if it's too soon to go into spoilers, but basically the one scene where he keeps repeatedly having the same thing happen, I guess it was supposed
Dormammu,
to be yeah, for years on end, basically.
Right.
So it's definitely, a little Groundhog Day moment in and of itself. So the fact that all this happened on Groundhog's Day is kind of a fun little Easter egg that the director threw in there.
That's cool. I like stuff like that. I mean, sometimes you can get like a little maybe too over the top with like nods to other movies or like little inside jokes. But I think that a lot of directors that do it subtly like this, it's fun. Like when you just like, hey, the director's saying like it took someone 2 years to figure this out. Like
right.
That's cool.
It almost makes you wonder if there are people that just comb through these movies trying to find. I'm sure there are. I mean, obviously that's not something that I want to spend my time doing, but hey, it's cool that someone did find it.
Yeah, that is cool. All right, Josh, well, let me ask you this. If you were to take a guess, would you say a lot of people go to the movies over Super Bowl weekend?
It's probably not one of the biggest movie weekends ever, at least probably not on Sunday.
No, it's actually characteristically a very quiet weekend for the box office because obviously you've got the Super Bowl and there's kind of like the ramp up. And I mean, I know a lot of people like the day before, like, they're going out and they're getting their stuff for their 7-layer bean dip, or, they're making a run for some drinks, or they're making homemade guacamole or whatever, whatever they're doing. They're prepping to tailgate, to do whatever. So typically the theaters don't get a lot of ticket sales. However, this last weekend, this is just like crazy to me. In its 7th weekend of release, the Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle is back again atop at the number 1 position in the the US box office. It beat out the new Maze Runner, The Death Cure, a movie called Winchester. And so it's I guess it dropped to 2nd, but it bounced back up to 1st. And it's the first movie that had a December release to still be winning a weekend in the number 1 spot in February since 1997's Titanic.
Okay, so here's the question. You've seen the movie, right? I believe you said you saw it with MoviePass and all that.
Yep.
Do you think this is more a fact that the other movies right now are just crap? Or do you think it's a fact that this movie has staying power and that it's actually doing well because of the movie itself, or is it just more circumstance?
I think it's maybe a little combination of a few things. I think one, it's really funny. It is a really funny movie, and it has like some subtle nods to the original without like being completely like a remake of the original per se. So it's really funny. I mean, it's got some really, good actors in it, Jack Black and Kevin Hart and The Rock and Karen Gillian. Like they're all really funny actors, with the script they have.
Okay, but so wait, hold up. I'm going to say her name wrong.
Karen Gillian.
Okay, what is she from? Because I do not know her at all.
So she played Amy Pond on Doctor Who. She was a companion on Doctor Who for about 3 seasons maybe.
Okay, never seen Doctor Who. I don't know if I should admit that on your podcast, but
yeah, you're a sinner. You need to repent. She also plays Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy. She's got the blue head, and she's like half cyborg.
Yeah, okay.
She's Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then of course Kevin Hart's a comedian, Jack Black's a comedic actor, and then Dwayne Johnson, and like you put him in the right roles, and he can be really funny with with the right script. So it's got a lot of humor. It's there's people who are going to go out and see it just for the nostalgia, but I think it's also got a really good word of mouth. Like I was kind of just so to see it, but I have MoviePass, so I figured, it's not going to cost me anything. I'll go check it out. But the movie has made $352 million domestically, and it's
Wow.
made $855 million worldwide.
And it's crazy that this movie came out at Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's even still in theaters.
It came
let
out the
alone-
same weekend as The Last Jedi.
Wow.
Now here's something. If you look at it like this, Josh, how long was The Last Jedi in the number one spot?
I mean, I would guess a month, maybe.
It's not there still. That's the thing. It's like
Yeah.
this movie like still continues. Now, it's also competing against a lot of movies that are up for like best Oscar nominations. Like I went and saw The Post, which is about the newspaper, The Washington Post, reporting on the Pentagon Papers scandal, and like that was an amazing movie, and it was acting was beautiful and amazing in it. But that's not going to appeal to like, people are like, hey, I want to go out for like a date and, like see something lighthearted and something kind of fun. That's not going to appeal to that crowd. It's going to appeal to like people who like drama or, like, thrill, kind of like a political thriller. And so it's going to be kind of like a different audience. But this thing's got some legs. I mean, I can't believe it.
Okay, but here's the thing too. I mean, we mentioned that it's still, at the top of the box office, whereas Last Jedi isn't. But I gotta think though that overall The Last Jedi has made probably a ton more money. It's probably one of those things where everyone went and saw it, and so now that they've seen The Last Jedi, it's like, well, we can go see Jumanji.
Sure. Now The Last Jedi probably made the same amount of money domestically that Jumanji's made in probably its first 2 weekends.
Probably.
But what I'm interested in though is that it just had like movies like that are going to have a sharper drop off, right? Like they'll be in the number one spot maybe the first week, and then like they'll have like a 40% drop off in sales and still eke out the second week, but then by like the third or the fourth week, they're gone. Like they're just not near the top, the top spots. But this has continued to stay. Now you can say, it's up against, kind of a weak field. The early, January, February, there's not a lot of like big tent pole movies. I mean, if you put this up against like a Marvel, like if a Marvel movie, had come out, like if Avengers Infinity War had came out, 2 weeks ago, obviously this wouldn't be number one.
Right.
But still, I mean, for where it's at right now, it's not too bad. We'll see what happens here in another week and a half when Black Panther comes out. I know that's not really, what we're talking about. It's not a news article I have for Rebel Intelligence, but like I do know, and we talked about this prior, that like the pre-ticket sales for Black Panther has outstripped every single Marvel movie to date right now. So that's probably going to have the number one spot that opening weekend here in another week and a half. I'm going to put that out there now. I don't think it's much of a stretch, but I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, sure.
All right. What else you got for me?
Okay, well, everyone and their dog knows who Elon Musk is, from SpaceX to Tesla, right? And now he's got this, what is dubbed the Boring Company, which, when I first heard the Boring Company, I thought, well, that's kind of a creative name for a random company, but it's actually a company that is trying to bore holes underground, for transportation purposes. So clever name, but he's come out with these flamethrowers, or so they're called,
Right.
that are supposed to look like it's supposed to look like a gun from the game Portal. And I say flamethrower, it's basically a torch. If you watch his Instagram video, which he titled, "Don't Buy This."
Right.
Yeah, it shows him having a blast with it. So, the man's a genius. He's making you want something. He's creating a scarcity on these because there's only 20,000 of them supposedly, and they're selling for $500 a pop. And the article I was reading was saying, as of the time they were writing this, over 17,000 of them have already been sold.
Right.
So they're going to sell out, and he's going to make $10 million off of torches. I mean, calling them flamethrowers. However, he's had some difficulties with shipping these because, different rules and whatnot, different regulations from different countries. And so to get around the fact that, it was called a flamethrower, to make sure that these were able to ship, he just changed the name to say not a flamethrower. And that's passed it through customs in multiple countries. But it's just really interesting. He takes a torch, he makes it, basically your garden variety torch, makes it, look like a gun, calls it a flamethrower. And, now he's, going to make $10 million off this, which to him, $10 million is nothing.
Right.
But I think more than anything, it's probably just assurances to those who are investors in this boring company that if he needs to drum up money, he can.
Right.
He can. He's basically proven that he can sell anything to anyone.
Ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah, because he's making it. He's making it, a limited edition and, kind of dressing it up. And because it has his name on it, everyone wants it. And by making so few of them, it's one of those things where people have to make a split-second decision because it's going to sell out. So if you want it, you have to go online and get it right away. And it's really smart and it's working out for him. So, so there you go. You can get your flamethrower from the Boring Company for a cool $500.
Nice. So, Josh, you and I are big Survivor fans.
Yeah, definitely.
I started watching Survivor the first season it's come out. I haven't missed one yet. I think you started tail end of the first season, maybe second season somewhere.
No, I was a little bit farther than that. I want to say it was the first Survivor All-Stars. So
okay, that'd be season 7, season 8?
Something like that. We've gone back and watched a few others after the fact, but I want to say that's where we started.
So I know in our family we're big Survivor fans. The new season of Survivor is coming out later this month, like towards the end of this month of February. And I'm really excited because they just showed, I think tail end of last week, they showed like the new cast and they kind of introduced everyone. And what I'm excited about is that they're not bringing back former players. Because sometimes that's kind of hit, sometimes that's kind of miss. You can get some really good former players that come back and get like a second chance, and it's a lot of fun. And other times they bring back people, and you're just like, oh, good crap, get these people off the TV. We don't want to watch them anymore. They've had their shot.
Well, some of them they've brought back 3 or 4 times. It's kind of the point where it's like, okay, just show me a fresh face.
Right, but they do that because they get ratings, and so,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It works. But here's the cool thing. What I really like they're doing this year is that, and let me even back this up just a little bit further than that. Survivor kind of got stale for a while. It was very predictable. You knew how many people were going to make it to the jury. You knew how many people were going to be at the final tribal council. You kind of, you knew these things, and, you can only use immunity idols, before the vote, after you voted, but before the vote is read. But in the last few seasons, they've kind of shaken up some of the rules and they've twisted some things around to kind of keep it fresh. And all of a sudden, now there's more jury members and there's more people at the final tribal council. And so they've been doing this stuff that I think has been really well received by the hardcore fans because it makes it a little more interesting, gives it a little more drama. But this upcoming season, I love this idea. I really do. They're bringing back Exile Island, which is, if you get voted off, or like if you're on the losing group or whatever, you get put on this island by yourself, except this time they're calling it Ghost Island. And what they're doing is they're bringing back challenges or things that tripped up former contestants like basically ruined their game and got voted off because of. They're putting those sort of things out there on the island and giving these new players a chance to maybe kind of learn from the mistakes of the past, the whole idea of the ghosts of the past. And I am really, really, really excited about this upcoming season. Have you seen much of this? Have you seen any of it?
I think I heard about Ghost Island on the finale of last season, but how is that going to play out? Because generally speaking, when you go to Exile Island, it's just you. So you mentioned challenges. Is it going to be like a time limit where you have to solve a puzzle, or is it going to be there's going to be multiple people out there and you compete against them?
I'm not quite sure.
They did one, I want to say it was one season where if you went to Exile, they did kind of like a second chance thing. Where if you got voted off, you went to Exile Island and then you could come back. The next person that went there, you battled it out and whoever won stayed there. That was interesting. I wonder if they'll maybe do something along those lines. But just the idea of Exile Island is really interesting, or Ghost Island, whatever it is, because so much of Survivor is a social game, and when they pull you out of that, even if you're not voted off, just being away from the tribe, things are always moving and shaking, and alliances are ever changing, and if you're not in the mix, generally speaking, people that are pulled away don't do as well. Not saying it can't happen. I mean, you definitely have that shot, but it really does hurt your game to be on your own.
Right. I don't know, man. I'm excited. I just, the previews look so good, and they introduced all the new cast, and they all, of course, when they introduced the cast, they all seem pretty smart and like they've kind of got together for the most part. And then they start the actual show and the actual game begins. And then some of these guys are smart, and then some of them come off as like dumb as a box of rocks. And so I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But yeah, end of February, that starts up again on CBS, and I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that we cut the cord a few years ago. Survivor is one of the few shows that will buy the season pass every year on iTunes so that we can, stay up to date with it and watch it, I guess the day after, but pretty much watch it right away.
Yeah. What else you got for me, Josh?
Okay, so everyone knows Jeopardy and the ever snarky Alec Trebek, and
I'll take the rapist for 200. That's therapists.
Yeah, so I guess on the on one of the most recent episodes, they had a section on football. And as this article says from avclub.com, I don't want to take credit for this, but it says Trebek about to dunk on some Poindexters. So basically, none of the contestants knew any of the questions that were related to football at all, and he just was roasting them, saying, "Do we need to go to commercial break?" And then when he would read some of the last questions, some of the higher ones, he didn't even give them a chance to buzz in because he knew they had no clue. So he would just be like, "Okay, here's a question, here's the answer," type thing, and because they were just staring at him, stonewalled. So I'm not really a big Jeopardy fan. I know my wife is really big into Wheel of Fortune, and so sometimes I'll see a few minutes of Jeopardy, because it airs right after Wheel of Fortune.
Judge Wapner.
No, but it's at least here locally, it's always right after Wheel of Fortune. So sometimes we'll see a few minutes of it. But man, talk about a show that would be so nerve-wracking to be on, because if you're not on point, man, he will let you know about it. So, I mean, they didn't know things like, if both teams have a penalty, what is that called? And it was, offsetting penalty, or there was a question about, if the quarterback is running and has, the ability to pitch it to the running back, what's that called? The option. So all these questions that they had no clue whatsoever about, and he just kind of threw it in their face. So I don't know. If you get a chance, Google it, watch the little YouTube clip. It's pretty.
Watch Trebek melt some faces of some nerds.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Poindexters is what this article calls them.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Josh. Did you ever see the King of Kong: A Fistful of Quarters, the documentary?
No, I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
Okay, I've got it on DVD. I'll let you borrow it because it's definitely worth a watch. But in gaming, especially in like classic gaming, one of the most like coveted like high scores you can have is on the original Donkey Kong, the arcade, right? The arcade cabinet, the stand up, in the arcade. And apparently there's a new world leader. The guy's name is Robbie Lakeman. He basically set this record. He's waiting for Twin Galaxies, which does like official game score verification, to go through. Apparently though, he beat his own record. But he's only increased the record by, it was something like I'm trying to remember, like 17,000 points, because like they're getting to the point now where like, if you can have an almost perfect game, like this is kind of like the upper ceiling of where you can get. And it's basically just a little over 1.2 million, which is interesting because if you've watched the documentary, it's about the former record holder, Billy Mitchell, who's like owns this like hot sauce company and kind of like always wears like a red, white, and blue USA tie. And he's kind of like this like smarmy, kind of like arrogant guy. And then you had Steve Wiebe, who is this like chemistry teacher from like the Seattle, Washington area who'd like been down on his luck a lot in his life and just hadn't had any breaks. And then he actually beat Billy Mitchell's record. And then it was kind of this whole drama, like him trying to go and prove that he actually did it and sending in his tape for verification. And then it was kind of like this, who's the better Donkey Kong player. And there was, it's kind of this interesting, this really kind of interesting competition. And of course, that documentary was like a decade ago. Both of their records have been passed a number of times recently, but it is a hotly contested record. Well, the interesting thing is that just recently, Twin Galaxies has kind of established a new protocol for challenging record holders. Like if you think that something's not legit or something's not right, you can challenge it. And this just recently happened where a 35-year-old record on a game of Dragster for the Atari was questioned, and the record holder, his name is Todd Rogers, like they basically said, because they talked to like the people that designed the game, and they basically said like, hey, this score he has really isn't even possible, and like he really didn't have any evidence to prove it, and so basically his record was removed from their website, and all of his records were removed, and he'd been a referee, and so like all that been removed. And now Billy Mitchell's claim to fame of his high score of Donkey Kong, which he had in the documentary Kong: A Fistful of Quarters, it's now come into question because they're saying he wasn't actually playing on the authentic game board, but he was playing on a main board, which is basically like an emulated board,
right?
Which can have like, it can have different little things, and it can give you like extra little advantages, even though it's not trying to. It's trying to replicate the original,
but it's not a 1-to-1.
It's not a 1-to-1, and so there's some controversy there. And it's just really interesting, like this whole world. Like I wasn't really aware of it until a King of Kong, the Fistful of Quarters documentary, but it's like this Twin Galaxies, and they send in stuff to Guinness World Records. Like they're really trying to make sure they're cracking down and keeping people honest and doing what they should be doing, and making sure there's no cheating or any hint of inappropriate behavior or activities. And all this kind of drama's going on, and while like all this is happening, the previous world record holder beats his own record by like another 17,000 and change, and sets a new Donkey Kong world record.
Yeah, that's wild. And to me, the interesting thing is, well, a couple things. You mentioned, Donkey Kong, which came out, actually, I was looking at this earlier. It came out on my birthday, 1981, July 9th. So the fact that people are still playing Donkey Kong in and of itself, I don't know if that's amazing, sad, pathetic,
I think
awesome.
I like the retro. I really love the retro aspect.
Hey, I'm not gonna rag on people that like to play old games. I do a YouTube channel with my son where we play old games. Right. So I'm not trying to be hypocritical, but the fact that you would just solely focus on a 36-year-old game is interesting. But I guess the more interesting thing is, and this is kind of more gamer talk, but when you think about video games, you tend to think of the latest and greatest, the Xbox One X, PS4, Nintendo Switch, stuff like that. But I was listening to, I want to say it was We the Gamercast with Sean Capri, but I might be wrong. It was Marissa Roberto, who is, she works for Xbox Canada as a TV personality, and I want to say it was on We the Gamercast. I've heard her on that, and I've also heard her on Nintendo Talk Live with Bobby Pauls, a Nintendo guru. So I'm not sure which one it was, but for the sake of this, I'll just say We the Gamercast. And she was talking about interviewing people that are like professional Rocket League players. And one of the things that caught her off guard is she tried asking them questions about other video games, and pretty much all they knew was Rocket League. That's like all they do. Yeah. Like you'd think someone that's a hardcore gamer would, be a little bit more diverse in the games they played. But like these people, it's like, if you tried to bring up, the latest and greatest, Destiny 2 or Far Cry or anything really, doesn't Monster Hunter, any of those type of games, they wouldn't know what the heck you're talking about, because they literally make it like their job just to play that one game. And it's probably the same thing with, like, you see the Overwatch League popping up now, where these guys, I'm not saying none of them don't, that there aren't any of them that don't play anything else, but
to be the best, man, you got to put in that work.
You really do. And it's crazy how dedicated they are. So,
yeah, it's always interesting to me. I mean, I love the retro games, and I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, I don't really get that. And I say, well, do you have like vinyl albums? And they say, yeah, because that's kind of a hip thing to do now because it's kind of retro. And it's like, well, it's the same thing. People love the retro games. And I got to say, like the old, Atari games, the old, classic, arcade games that on the stand-up cabinets, and like even like the old like NES games, like it wasn't like, hey, every couple minutes you get a save point, or, you move into like the next area and you get a save point and it auto saves for you. No, like you had a quarter or you had one life and you had to play through the entire freaking game. It's like you had to learn it, and you like had to like build up that muscle memory. So, like now you run, but you got to pull back at this time and then run again. And, you just had to get that rhythm and you had to figure it out. And games aren't like that anymore for the most part. It's a lot different.
A lot of those older games, you get like 3 lives. Like you pop in Contra on like the NES Classic, and I know there's a Konami code.
Sure.
You pop that in with 3 lives, and I'm dead in like 20 seconds. And I'm like, games have just changed. It's not to say that games aren't hard now, but a lot of those old games are just so Twitch based and
brutal.
so much muscle memory. Like you look at Punch Out. Games of those nature where it really just is, there's not a whole lot of buttons and there's not a lot to learn in that manner, but it's just so much Twitch response. But yeah, just going back to the retro games, and you kind of compared it to vinyl, and it's a really good comparison because and I say this being someone that actively hunts out retro games from garage sales, and I will I'll flip retro games if they're not ones that I want for the ones that I do want. And it's definitely, at least price-wise, on the upswing. They're definitely harder to find. There's less and less of them out in the wild. But even 5 years ago, the prices of these retro games were quite a lot less. So it's, like vinyl, it's something that is kind of becoming popular, and you definitely see the prices reflect that. One of my favorite things to do if I'm just looking for a time waster is to go on YouTube and watch game room tours from some of these guys that just have thousands of games. And one of the consistent things you'll hear is these people say, I'm really glad I started doing this, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, because now it's so much harder to build up a collection just because of the price of everything.
Right. Let me ask you this. Could you ever see yourself having like a classic arcade game or a pinball machine like in your home or like in a game room? And if so, what would that be?
I think I'd definitely go with an arcade machine over. I'm not really a big pinball guy, but man, talk about expensive. You could spend thousands upon. When I was back in Chicago hanging out with Gabe, we went to, I think it was Galloping Ghost Arcade, and they have tons of pinball machines there. And we were talking to the owner, and he was telling us that some of these were upwards of $15,000 a piece.
Nuts.
Not saying that that's what all of them are going to be,
right?
But you're not going to get a pinball machine for $100-$200. You're just not. But I would go arcade, and gosh, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go the main route where you could just load thousands of. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be some toss up from Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, Simpsons, or Ninja Turtles. Maybe Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to pass up. But any of those would just be awesome, because those were the ones that came out in the early to mid 90s are the ones that I have the more nostalgia for. Not, I mean, like stuff like Galaga, Centipede, some of those older ones. It doesn't really do it for me.
See, I would do a Pac-Man or a Galaga or a Donkey Kong in a heartbeat. I mean, I loved those games. But yeah, NBA Jam, TNMT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, any like, Double Dragon. I mean,
Double Dragon, yeah.
I mean, some of that stuff. I mean, I'd take that too. I would love a Star Wars pinball game. Like the Star Wars pinball game I played growing up, not any like the new stuff like Phantom Menace. No. Just like the original trilogy pinball game. But here's the thing also I look at. Do you remember like when we go to like Pizza Hut, they actually had what's called a cocktail cabinet. It's actually like you sit down at it and it's like flat and it's got glass on it.
Yep.
Like that actually like wouldn't be a bad thing to have. I mean, I like the traditional stand up, but I wouldn't pass on like a good cocktail cabinet either, where you could sit down and have it as a like little table as well.
Yeah, those are cool. I don't know. I guess there was a while where me and obviously you know Matt, but listeners of the podcast don't know Matt, but my childhood best friend, where we both talked about building an arcade cabinet, and he went through and put one together. But I started watching videos on it, and holy cow, it's so much work. And then there's the question of, do you put like an old CRT? Are you trying to get like that authentic experience? Or are you putting like a flat screen computer monitor that's going to, look better? Honestly, I'd probably go the computer monitor route. It's cheaper. It's going to have a better, sharper image on it. But yeah, I mean, that would be really cool. I don't know. I don't know how my wife would feel about putting an arcade cabinet in the basement with all the other, my basement's already overflowing with, Nintendo 64 and GameCube, and I have a Retron, Super Nintendo, all these systems and games. So I don't know, but it would be really cool. But like I said earlier, I'd probably go the MAME route, so you could kind of play,
a lot of
bit
stuff.
of everything. Yeah,
I gotcha. Well, that's all I have for Rebel Intelligence. Josh, did you have anything else?
I think I'm tapped out.
All right, let's move on. Josh, last week we had Brita on and we did the movie club, and we talked about Groundhog's Day. And our question of the week was, if you could relive one day over again and over, what day would that be? Now, do you have an answer, Josh? What day you would be willing to live over and over and over again, potentially for as many as like 10 years?
Yeah, I thought about this, and I gotta admit, I was getting a little choked up just kind of thinking about it. Because I'm gonna cheat because I can't just pick one day, so I kind of thought of 2 days. And I'll explain my reasoning why, and I'll give my answer, and then hopefully some of the other answers are maybe not so much of a depressing tone. But okay, I'm going to pick two because I think of my life in kind of two different stages. I think of my childhood and our family there, and then I think of adulthood and my own family. And so I'm going to pick the same day, just years apart. And I'm going to pick Christmas. And for the reason that Christmas is a day that everyone's together, that family spends together, and you have that magical morning where, you're all, if you're a kid, you're excited about seeing what Santa brought and opening all your presents. And if you're adult, it's that fun of reliving that through your children's eyes. So I'm going to pick this last Christmas. And the reason being is because, I have 4 kids now where we are officially done raising kids. So this last Christmas was special in the fact that my whole family was all there, and we knew it, this is, to steal the name of a TV show I've never seen, but this is us. We were all there. We all had fun. And and my 3-year-old was definitely into the magic of it all. My oldest is kind of in on things now, so to speak, but still had a lot of fun. And we didn't do anything crazy, but it was just kind of fun to have that time. And then so the other Christmas day I'm going to pick, and it really doesn't matter, and this is where I kind of get choked up, but it really doesn't matter what the day is. What year, just any year that, all of our family was together. So anywhere from our youngest sister, Caitlin, was born in 91, and, our dad died in 2002. So anywhere from 91 to 2001, I guess.
Yeah.
I was on a mission, but, any year that our whole family was together, I mean, I would gladly, be stuck in either one of those Christmases. So.
Okay. I'll give you both of those because you're my brother and I love you. But yeah, no, I'm with you.
I know you could say, the birth of one of your children or whatever.
Yeah, but your wife doesn't want to relive that day. Holy crap.
No, and
she would
honestly,
hate you.
I mean, those are great days, but they're also really stressful.
Right.
And, I thought about, like the wedding day, but I ended up just going with Christmas just because it's where everyone's together. I didn't want to say like the birth of my, oldest son or the birth of my youngest son.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Because the other kids feel gypped, and I'm going to tell them you said so.
Yeah.
I really didn't answer. I kind of punted on it last week, and because I couldn't think of something. And, I'm with you, Josh. Like, it would be tough to go back in time and like not relive a day like now with like Charlie and Jackson and Brita.
Right.
But for the sheer fact that like, we lost Dad, many years ago now. I mean, 16 years ago. And that's a long time to go without your father, to be without a parent that you loved, and that you were close to. And so like I'm with you. I would definitely go back somewhere into like, maybe my teenage years, my late teenage years, when we were all together at the house, and just it wouldn't have to be Christmas, but any day that was a good day with everyone that we spent time together. Maybe like a trip to Six Flags. Like I could relive a family trip to Six Flags again, over and over and over again for a long time, and just be able to hear Dad's voice and see him, and that would be great.
I don't know that I could do Six Flags just because, I mean, I love roller coasters, but man, when you do roller coasters all day long, you get home and you feel like you're still moving. And so I don't know if I'd want that same sensation.
I love that feeling.
For like 10 years straight. that would end up being like a nightmare. Like constantly feeling like you're flipping upside down and
I could deal with it.
Eating popcorn and pretzels every day for 10 years. No, thank you.
Well, let's see what some of our super friends have to say. We're going to go over
hopefully we get some nice funny ones instead of these depressing stories that I have.
Let's go to Peter Christensen on the email. He says, "Dear nerds, I didn't see Ant-Man for a long time. It was the only MCU movie I'd missed. I really enjoyed it, but I felt like it was an attempt to remake of the Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. Smart, funny, technologically advanced. There's corporate intrigue for control of a tech suit. And at the end, he fights someone with a more advanced version of that tech suit. It also felt like a rough draft of Doctor Strange, right down to the trippy psychedelic scene. I'm happy to have more Ant-Man." He says, "Answer, you park your Jaeger wherever you want." We were talking about, like where you would park your Jaeger. And
right.
He's right. You park that thing wherever you want. He says, "If you like Groundhog Day and you like action movies, I recommend the alien war movie Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise." I have seen that. That's an excellent movie.
Yeah, that is a good one. I was kind of surprised how much. And that was one that they actually changed. They changed the title, yeah, from when it was in the theaters to when it released.
Yeah, because they called it Live, Die, Repeat, I think, when they released it.
Yeah.
But it was like Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. Anyway,
yeah.
He says, "Brita, my wife would be happy to spend Groundhog's Day with you at Disney. But I can't imagine living any day over and over again. I love new experiences, and I would be worn down by repeating the same day over and over again. Cheers, Peter Christensen." And I agree with him, and I think that's the thing, and that's actually kind of part of the movie, is that, like, for as much as like you would, like you just said, Josh, like going to Six Flags Great America over and over and over and over again. Like eventually you're like, I can't eat another pretzel. I can't eat another hot dog. I can't take the shockwave again. You would grow tired of it.
Well, yeah, and as much as people look back with fond memories, of their childhood or whatever it is, you have that nostalgia. There is something to be said about, just the progression of life, and I don't want to say moving on, but just continually growing. So yeah, to be stuck in that same state, even if it was a good memory, I could totally see how it would sour.
Right. Let's go over to Twitter. Bear the Hairless at Chad Fackler 1 says, so not listening to Brita, it really would be my wedding day. We had a very small wedding and a great party afterwards. Family, friends, fun, and karaoke. So yeah, I could relive that day.
Yep, that's a good answer.
I like that. I mean, I guess it all depends on the wedding you have. Like for me, I distinctly remember like not really eating. Like we were taking like wedding photos, like after we'd been married, taking a bunch of wedding photos, and everyone was at the dinner afterwards. And it's like everyone else is eating, but like we showed up like super late. And by the time we got there, everyone wants to talk to you and everyone wants to, congratulate you. And like I didn't get to eat. And I remember stopping at a drive-through Wendy's on the way to like our hotel, the Marriott we were going to that night, and like bringing in like chicken nuggets and junior bacon cheeseburgers because we were just starving.
Well, I had my wedding day. I had Blimpie.
That's not what you call Steph, by the way.
No, it's a small. If you don't know what Blimpie is, it's a sub sandwich place.
Sorry, that's not your pet nickname for Steph.
Definitely not. But yeah, same thing. Like Steph and I were married in Nauvoo, Illinois, which is a really, really small town, like 2,000-3,000 people. And that was like the only place. And it was actually before we got married, but it's one of those things where I knew it was going to be a long day. And so I wasn't late. She teases me and says I was late because I was supposed to be 2 hours early and I was an hour and like 45 minutes early. So once again, I say I'm not late. She says I was late. And the truth is I was in line at Blimpie.
I remember your wedding day because I flew in the night before in Chicago, which is like 4.5 hours away. And this is before like I had cell phones. And so like dad went to the airport, but my plane had been delayed. And so like by like an hour, so like he waited for an hour and then he drove an hour home. And I'm like calling the house, like, where are you? Where are you? And finally get a hold of Dad. And
I
like,
remember that, yeah.
He came back and like picked me up at the airport at 3 a.m. We went home, got home like a little after 4 a.m. And then at 6 a.m, we had to get up and drive 4.5 hours. And we literally showed up maybe like 15 minutes before your wedding. It was crazy.
I remember that.
And I'm never going to forgive you for that night, by the way.
Okay. And just, going back to Chad's comment about, two things. First, what I want from Chad, if he's listening, is I want him to write in and explain his Twitter handle because it's hilarious. Yes. Bear the Hairless. So I want that out of him. So if you hear this, please do tell if you can.
Keep it appropriate. If it's like really weird or creepy, maybe just slide into the DMs and let us know. And
So there's that. And then the thing I was thinking too, and I, not to use the word kinky on a podcast, but I don't mean this in a kinky way. But if I had to choose around the wedding time, I would choose the honeymoon over the actual wedding because your wedding day is so chaotic.
Sure.
And really your wedding day ends up being almost more for everyone else that's there than it is for you. Because like you're saying, you stand in a line shaking hands and you're, doing pictures and you're running all over the place. And, so the honeymoon was just finally where you can get away and relax. We went to San Diego on our honeymoon and just kind of just chilled out. And so I think I would choose chilling out on the beach in San Diego over the actual chaos of even though the wedding was great. Like, don't get me wrong.
So you're saying you'd rather San Diego and chill than do the wedding day over again?
I'm just saying that the honeymoon is At least in my case. In my case, it was much more relaxing than the actual wedding day was.
Really?
Even though it was cool to see
Was it?
everyone. Yes.
All right. Let's move on to Facebook. And we've got Caleb Albers. He says, just want to start off by saying, okay, Google, during a podcast really throws people off. My phone started searching whatever it was Brita said after she said, okay, Google. Funny experience, though. 4.5 stars, would recommend to a friend. So just for Caleb, okay, Google, bear the hairless. Let's see what happens.
What you have to do is you have to cover all your bases and say, hi, Alexa.
Yeah.
Hey, Siri. Okay, Google. Xbox turn on. All those sayings. And I'm looking down at my phone right as I said that certain phrase that you say to iPhones. I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to screw up the podcast here.
Right,
But
so,
luckily it didn't catch it.
Okay, Google, dysentery. Just, in case.
Okay, so
comes up.
Not to derail the podcast any more than I already have, but I have a quick Google story because we also have a Google Home and then we have 2 Google Minis in the house. They were on a great sale. We got them for Christmas.
And you have to say, okay, Google.
Well, yeah, but we use our Google Home and the Google Minis more as a broadcasting system than almost anything else.
Right.
Because we can say to the kids if they're downstairs without, yelling and screaming like, hey, come up for dinner or whatever. Well, we also have a, what's it called? A Chromecast?
Yeah.
That's connected to our bedroom TV. And Saturday, Steph had been asleep for like all of an hour after working the night shift. And the kids were downstairs playing music on the Google Mini as they were playing Minecraft, which is like one of their favorite things to do is to listen to, oh crap, I'm going to forget their names. Oh, Imagine Dragons as they play Minecraft. But they decided to change it up and they asked Google to play something else. And I think Google said back to them, do you want to play it on the Chromecast? And they didn't know what that was. And I think they said yes. Because all of a sudden Steph wakes up and is like, the TV just turned on. And so I go running in the room and sure enough, the Chromecast got turned on by the Google Home. So we definitely have to move that out of our bedroom because that was kind of disastrous when she'd been up all night, finally fell asleep for 20-30 minutes, and then the kids turn on the Wheels on the Bus or something like that on YouTube.
Right. Okay, this is the last one, I promise, because I'm just trying to mess with Caleb. Okay, Google, vasectomy pictures. Okay, let's move on.
Oh, this could get bad fast, so let's move on.
He says, anyway, if I had to pick a day, I had to have 2 different trains of thought. 1, which day would I have the most resources available to me to do what I would want to do? And 2, what day would be the most fun? And my conclusion is that I would pick a day right before the day I got married, maybe 3 or 4 days before. Those days I woke up really early to get a start on the day so that it maximizes my time awake. I just gotten paid from 2 different jobs that day, so I had spare funds, and I had the day off work, so I had plenty of free time. Also, I had a date planned with my now bride that wasn't a set-in-stone plan, so I would have a ton of fun options of places to take my date. So me being the person I am, I would figure out pretty quickly that playing video games would be pointless, so I'd probably take classes like Bill Murray did to better himself. I'd probably learn to play my guitar finally, maybe read a bit more, try to go to different food places, not worry about the effects afterwards. I would take my bride to a brunch, a bunch of different places to explore, and a lot of stuff along those lines. I would try to make the best out of that one long day.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty well thought out.
Yeah, not bad.
Okay, Google, rectal exam. Sorry. He's going to hate me. Next week he's like, stop this now.
Okay, Google, inverted. Never mind.
Okay, so one last thing here. Josh, you're probably very familiar with our good friend Paul Calico at pcalico84. He's been going through the backlog, and he says he's got an answer for episode number 27.
Oh boy.
Web shooters or organic webs. And he says, I go both ways because if the tech fails, a good mechanic, he's like, but with spider bites, Peter still gives him the chemical makeup. And so he's got the knowledge of how to make a web. And so he
just chose both?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, that's cheating, right?
You know what, though? Like, I'm okay. I'm going to give it to him.
This or that? Both.
I like the organic. I mean, I do like the organic versus the mechanical, but I mean, I can see where the mechanical has its advantages, you know?
Okay.
If you're not feeling your mojo and you can't, make your, your web shooters or whatever, you got the mechanical and they do them for you.
Yeah, but what if those? I mean, I guess you could say both could. I would go organic.
Me too. I mean, I like that feel more than the mechanical.
Because the mechanical, I don't know.
They can get crushed. They can fall
more,
off.
Yeah, you could have more failure there, I would think.
Right, but Paul, you keep bringing the old answers back, and we'll get back to you every time we can. Thank you so much, Super Friends, for jumping in and answering our question of the week. We always appreciate the feedback we get. It's a lot of fun. It literally is one of my favorite parts of the podcast, just to kind of get that interaction. You can always reach us on Twitter, which is @FortofNerd, email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd. Josh, how can our Super Friends help us out this week?
They can rate us on iTunes so that the Fortress of Nerditude is easier to find than one of Elon Musk's flamethrowers.
Ooh, very nice. I'd get one of those. I really would. I don't know what I'd do with it, but I just like the idea.
And if you guys start a Patreon, maybe you can charge $500 and they can get a little torch for it.
Right. So Josh, I want to talk to you about something. In the past, I would say the Super Bowl is a big event, right? I mean, obviously it's the game, but like more so lately, there's more and more and more people that are tuning in to watch the commercials and to see kind of, what's the big thing? Like what's going to be the big commercial that like everyone's talking about it around the water cooler the next day. But here's something I noticed, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit too, which is
You noticed it was a Tide ad?
I loved those Tide ads, man. Hopper, when he's like, you think this is a razor ad? No, it's a Tide ad. It's like,
It's a Tide ad.
He's like, he's wearing those clothes are too clean. It's not a beer ad. It's a Tide ad. I looked at every single ad after that, wondering when he was going to pop back up and do another Tide ad. I love
when they had the Old Spice guy, and it's a Tide ad. You're like, what the crap?
I loved that. Like, I really did. I really did enjoy it. But here's what I noticed, though.
Okay.
Great commercials, but I counted there was more big movie trailers or teaser trailers for movies this year in the Super Bowl than I can ever think of before. Can you think of a time when you saw more than what we had this year?
Yeah, back in 2003, there was actually 17.
Really?
No, I just made
Yeah, that's what I thought. I feel like it's becoming now a vehicle to help help the movie theaters also, because we had the big trailers, like we had some full trailers and some teaser trailers. And then we also had like what I'd call like the, not a trailer, but a trailer. So for instance, like the Lexus commercial, which had like the cast of Black Panther, which comes out on February 16th. Like that wasn't an ad for the movie. It wasn't a teaser trailer or just a TV spot. It was a commercial for a Lexus, but like you could have substituted any car in there and everyone would have known like this is T'Challa and this is the Black Panther and this is, Wakanda and all that.
Well, I mean, it's smart marketing because you're probably getting money from both Marvel and Lexus thrown in the pot. It's the same thing when Rogue One came out, how they had the Nissan Rogue crossover commercials.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you see more and more of that where they kind of, bundle these things together and make it a joint effort.
So let's talk about some of the bigger movie things that were previewed. And I want to start with one that I think was, I'm going to not say controversial, but let's just say it looked iffy. So let's talk about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah. So Skyscraper, right?
Skyscraper.
Okay. I don't want to say I've had a change of heart on this. 'Cause I remember when I watched it live during the Super Bowl, I actually laughed when it wasn't supposed to be funny. I mean, it's not a comedy at all, but it just seems so over the top, which, I can accept a lot out of an action movie. I can accept, GoldenEye, where the plane's going down in a nosedive and he pulls it, where he jumps off the motorcycle and lands in the plane and pulls it out of a nose, right? So, I mean, I can accept things that are just out there, or, what was the fourth Die Hard movie where he makes the motorcycle go off the ramp that then launches it and hits a helicopter? You know,
Right.
so. But and
Live
I don't
free or
mean,
die hard.
Live free or die hard. Yeah, thank you. And I don't mean this as any sort of disservice or knock on anyone who's disabled, but you know, The Rock has a prosthetic leg, and yet he's jumping off of a crane into, you know, you assume he makes it into the building, which looks like it's, you know,
1,000
200
feet away.
I was going to say 200, 300 feet away, but it looks, you know, so far away, and he's getting shot at and running, and you think, okay, you know, if he really did have a prosthetic leg, and it does look like there's a little bit of a limp there as he's running, but like, is he really going to be fast enough to outrun bullets? It was really hard for me to take it seriously, and you know, it's an action movie, so maybe I shouldn't.
Now, I will point out there are athletes who've like lost both legs, who like run in the
True.
Olympics and like win like gold medals in like the Paralympic Games that like could probably outrun some of like, well, they definitely could outrun me, but they could.
There was gosh, I'm going to forget his first name, but the Pistorius guy,
Yeah.
who ended up being on trial for, you know, murdering his girlfriend, which is, you know, kind of the fame obviously he
Didn't want. Yeah.
didn't want. But yeah, I mean, so yes, there is that, but it wasn't like Dwayne The Rock Johnson had, you know, a special leg made for, you know, being a track star. Like if you looked at Pistorius's, they're almost more like blades, like
Right.
bouncing blades, than it was just something that looks like your average, you know, leg with a
Right.
shoe on it. So I don't know. I had that initial reaction of thinking, oh, this just looks horrible. And I haven't necessarily changed my mind to the fact that like, ooh, this looks really good. But going back and watching the full trailer, I mean, it looks interesting. I mean, I don't think most of The Rock's movies are necessarily things that are going to win, you know, a whole bunch of awards and gonna, you know, necessarily be critically acclaimed. Because a lot of his stuff is just kind of that physical comedy, you know, where he
Action
throws,
movies, yeah.
where he throws a rock bottom on someone and something blows up,
Right.
type thing. But I mean, it looks intriguing. I mean, it's a ripoff of Die Hard. But
I'm with you. I saw the original trailer and I went, that teaser trailer, at least during the Super Bowl, and I went, yeah, this thing looks like hot garbage. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was like, this looks like junk. And I probably won't see it, except I've got the movie pass, so maybe I will. And that was my thought process. Then I watched the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon later that night after the Super Bowl, and he was on it, and then they played the full trailer. And the full trailer kind of turned me around a little bit. I went, okay, it's still going to be an action movie. It's still going to be, you know,
Right.
The Rock doing The Rock. You know, it's going to be Dwayne Johnson being Dwayne Johnson. I was like, but it seemed to flesh out a little more of maybe like the story of like what it could be or what it is going to be maybe. And I went, okay, this is a summer blockbuster popcorn movie. It's going to be
Right.
exciting. People are going to go see it because if they want to go see something, they want to go see him slap a rock bottom down on someone. They want to watch something blow up. That's why you're going to go see that movie.
Right.
Is
To
it
me-
going to win Best Motion Picture? No, nowhere near. But
yeah,
it'll be fun.
To me, this is if I have nothing else to do, I'd go see it in the theater, and I'm sure it would be enjoyable enough. But it's more likely for me going to be a red box. Like I still want to see it, but I don't know that I'm going to get a babysitter and pay.
Right.
You know, whereas I don't have Movie Pass. You know, pay full price in the theater.
See,
for
for
it.
me,
But, yeah, I mean,
that's a Movie Pass movie now.
yeah, to me, it's just not that it's the same movie as like San Andreas, but he's kind of done a lot of these just, you know, typical, like you said, popcorn action movies where he beats everyone up around him and there's a lot of explosions and
Yep.
then he saves the day at the end. I mean, we've seen this before. I don't think it's going to be anything that breaks that mold unless you think him having a prosthetic leg changes everything, which I don't think it really does. I mean, it's just a different dynamic.
So your official position is go see this thing if you got Movie Pass, or otherwise wait for Redbox.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna say I'm in the same place as you. If you got Movie Pass, go see this. Otherwise, wait for Redbox probably. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. Now, this was interesting because there was one of these, like, they showed a more full trailer or a different kind of teaser trailer for this, and they also had the cross promotion with Jeff Goldblum in a Jeep commercial, kind of similar to the Lexus commercial with the Black Panther. What did you think of the new Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom trailer?
It looks good. I'm a little nervous though, because if you go back to the original Jurassic Park movies, the first one is so iconic, so amazing. The next two, Lost Worlds, and I can't even remember the name of the other one. It
was Jurassic Park 3. It was just Jurassic 3, I think.
Oh yeah, JP3. Yeah. But yeah, so you have the Lost Worlds and then Jurassic Park 3. 2 and 3 were, in my mind, just throwaways. I mean, it was just money grabs. And so I hope that that's not the case, where this is just another one of those where, like, the last one with Chris Pratt was good, but this one's just money grab. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I do have a little bit of that fear of, how many times can they, see dinosaurs run amok and then say, well, let's still bring them back. Let's give them another shot. And that's, I don't know. It's kind of like, this is the 5th time that we've seen the same story play out. So
yeah, something like that.
There's that concern. I mean, to me, this is still one that I'm going to go see in the theater. Okay.
So what was interesting to me about this preview is, like, there's that scene that they showed where you can see, like, a dinosaur, like, in, like, a little girl's bedroom. So, like,
yeah, that was creepy.
Like, that was creepy. And I was like, okay, now that would freak me out. Like, obviously, like, if you're going to, like, Isla Nublar, right? You're going to the island in the first one, or you're going in one of these other ones. Like, it's an amusement park. You're going to see dinosaurs. But, like, all of a sudden, like, you wake up and you've got, like, some sort of, like, new species of velociraptor or something in your bedroom. Holy crap. That would freak me out.
I was just waiting for a scene where someone's holding Jell-O and watching it shake and freak out, or Samuel L. Jackson, hold on to your butts.
So they do hint that there's some sort of new species, maybe some sort of crossbreed that's going to be introduced. So the idea is we're going to see a new dinosaur, and I feel like that's kind of what this trailer was trying to...
But that's what they did. That's what they did in the last movie, though,
it is. They had a few new ones in the last one, but I feel like that's... The point of this trailer was to show, like, hey, now we've got a dinosaur in a bedroom, and we've got a new breed of dinosaur. Whereas, like, the other trailer they put out a little while ago was more of the, we've got to go back to the island, and we've got to save the dinosaurs. We've got to save our pets because we love animals. And it had this, like, weird, like, PETA feel to it. And, like, this one, like, I didn't get any of that. Like, that kind of story arc or that narrative was not, like, mentioned or highlighted. This was more of the explosions and roaring dinosaurs and, like, jump scares and, like, the trying to build the tension more than the other one was.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm still going to go see it just because I like Jurassic Park. But I do have the concern that there's not going to be a whole lot of new story or really progression. It's just going to be a lot more of the same. Like, hey, you like dinosaurs? You like jump scares? You want to see a couple people get, you want to see the lawyer or someone get eaten? Sure, we'll do that.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be entertaining.
Jeff Goldblum is going to come back for this one, though. So you have Jeff Goldblum. Life finds a way. I'm gonna be with you, and I'm gonna say this is a movie you should go see in the theater, and it's for the reason for me is that you're right. Like, the story could be kind of weaker on this one. I suspect it's gonna be weaker than the first movie, Jurassic World. Kind of like not a reboot, but like a kind of the newer ones. I think the story's gonna be weaker, but this is a type of movie that if you don't see it in the big screen, if you don't see it in the theater, it's not gonna have the same impact, the same emotions, the same kind of tension and suspense when you're watching it at home on your television and your kids are running in and out and interrupting you and you've got to pause the thing. That's not going to be the same experience. So for me, I'm recommending you go see this one in the theater.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah.
let's talk about the new Mission Impossible movie that they showed, Mission Impossible Fallout. I gotta say, like, right off the bat, like, I remember when the first Mission Impossible movie came out, and I remember really liking it because I felt like there was some, like, twists, and, like, you get to this point where, like, you don't know, like, what's going on and who's on whose side anymore. And then, like, the second movie and the third movie came out, and, like, it felt like there was less of that, and it was more just kind of action, and less of the, like, whole, like, I gotta try to, trick you and da-da-da-da-da. But I must say, the last few movies that have come out, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and then Mission Impossible, was like Rogue Nation?
Rogue Nation.
Like, those last two, I really, really enjoyed. And so the Mission Impossible trailer dropped during the Super Bowl, and I felt like thematically, this trailer feels like a lot similar to Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation versus like the first or maybe second one. It feels more germane to the newest ones.
I really like the Mission Impossible movies except 2. 2, I'm trying to remember who directed 2. It's the same guy that does the Transformer movies, I believe. Michael Bay? Not Michael Bay. Was it Michael Bay?
No.
No, it was... God, I mean, I would look it up. But anyways, 2 to me is so different than the rest of them. Everything down to Tom Cruise's look with the long hair and the location being more in, the mountainous region. And it just, you got those long motorcycle chases, which I know Mission Impossible's over the top, but I mean, it was 2 I thought was laughable. It was so poorly done.
2 was directed by John Woo.
John Woo, yeah. Which is another guy that's kind of known for his crazy over the top stuff.
Right.
I really did not like 2. The first one was really interesting. I mean, the first one had action,
right?
But it was more the story, the plot that was really the star. I mean, you didn't get as many crazy stunts as they've done in some of the later ones. 3 for me though was a real standout, mainly because it was a J.J. Abrams movie, and it was right after Alias kind of wrapped up.
And I know you love that Alias.
I do. Alias was one of my, at least the first 3 seasons. The last 2 kind of were a suckfest, but the first 3 seasons of Alias were really well done. And my wife and I were really into Alias. And so when we watched Mission Impossible 3, you definitely get that J.J. Abrams feel from some of the character actors and some of the just some of the ways that they interacted. Like there's a scene where Ethan is in a gas station and he has his back to a guy who's in another aisle and they're talking. It was almost a copycat scene straight out of Alias. So he definitely has that same feel. I don't know. I thought 3 was excellent, and like I said, pretty much all of them except for 2 have been, in my opinion, really good. Now I can be a little hypocritical though, and kind of how I was knocking Jurassic Park of it kind of just being the same story over and over again. I mean, this is kind of along those same lines, but they have done some little tweaks with the plot. One of the things that I did like about this trailer though is that they're not trying to sweep under the rug his wife,
right?
Who's played by, help me out with the name, Megan.
No, it's Michelle Monaghan.
Michelle Monaghan, thank you. I like the fact that they show her even briefly, because I'm trying to remember if it was in Ghost Protocol or if it was in Rogue Nation. I don't know if they showed her.
I don't think she was in.
She was
Rogue
a
Nation.
little bit. I want to say in Ghost Protocol, maybe just a little bit.
But she was in 3 though, for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was one of the main characters in 3, but then they showed her a little bit in Ghost Protocol. But I'm glad that they haven't just tried to, pull a fast one on you and kind of act like she, didn't exist, or I don't know. I guess you'd say he's moved on.
Kill her off screen or whatever, Yeah. I watched this and I went, okay, this feels like the last 2. It feels like Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation. It's got the action, like the action you would kind of expect from a Mission Impossible movie at this point. For me, this is a movie I would go and see in the theater. This isn't
definitely.
This isn't a movie I would wait on and wait to come to I was about to say to VHS. Wow. To come to Redbox or to come to Netflix or something like that. You got to get it before it gets to that VHS, I tell ya.
What were the laser disc?
Right. I got it on Betamax. Yeah.
Yeah, Laserdisc. I don't think you could even pause those.
Yeah, you could.
Or maybe you couldn't. Maybe there wasn't scene selection or something like that. I remember watching a couple of them. It was, there's some.
They were pretty good quality for back in the day.
Yeah, the quality was there, but maybe it was scene selection, or maybe you couldn't fast forward, or there's something weird
scene
like
selection
that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so Josh, here's the cool thing. Like, we saw a preview. I don't know if this is a movie per se or if this is going to be a series, but
it's a series.
Okay, but I tossed this in here. The Amazon Prime series, Jack Ryan. This is based on Tom Clancy's character, who is like the main character from like Patriot Games and the Hunt for October, and Executive Decision, Clear and Present Danger. What's it called? The Teeth and the Tiger. Like some of his big books,
right.
But like they're kind of trying to find a way to like kind of reboot the character and start it over again. And it's starring freaking John Krasinski, or aka Jim from The Office. What did you think of that?
I'm intrigued by it. I've always liked the Jack Ryan movies. I can't say that I've read the books, and like when you were saying the
books are awesome,
Teeth and Tiger or whatever it was. I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, just excellent movies. So the fact that this is going to be, and I want to say for right now, it's slotted for 8 episodes, and I don't know if that's just kind of the trial period, but I only know that because I was curious about it, so I was looking it up on IMDb, and all the main characters are saying 8 episodes. So my guess is that's just season 1 is 8 episodes,
right.
But it's going to be on Amazon Prime. I know they're trying to, keep up with Netflix and all of their original programming. So I'm excited for it. I mean, I think it looks really interesting. And just with the history of the Jack Ryan story, I mean, I'm hoping that it can live up to those.
Right. I mean, you got a CIA analyst that ends up getting thrown into the field and then ends up kind of doing like, field agent work. And then ends up, kind of going on from there. I'm okay if this starts slow, like goes back to him being an analyst, and then he slowly kind of builds up, and like this becomes like a recurring show for Amazon Prime, or almost like a movie, because it's going to have that kind of movie kind of quality to it. I would be excited to see something, because I mean I know they tried to do the Sum of All Fears with Ben Affleck. And I think they even tried to do another Jack Ryan movie.
They've had 2 recent ones that had Chris Pine in them.
Right.
Which I don't think they necessarily were huge successes. I enjoyed them. I mean, I didn't think they were, they weren't great. But I thought they were definitely enjoyable for what they were. And they kind of held true to the Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan story. And definitely there have been plenty of different actors that have played the Jack Ryan character. And I think John Krasinski, or, it's hard to call him John instead of just
Jim.
Jim. But I think he kind of fits that mold. He's, you could definitely see him as a government operative, as someone that, not necessarily like a superhero that's just going to plow through, but, someone that is, kind of the more analytical type, but yet can still handle himself with a gun.
So let me ask you this. I'm excited about this. It sounds like you're excited. Do you think this would be something that if you didn't have Amazon Prime, you would be willing to purchase Amazon Prime to watch?
It's so hard to say without having at least seen like one episode. Like I think if they were smart, they would put like one episode out there free, kind of like I think CBS did that with the new Star Trek show. I do have Amazon Prime, and I'm planning on watching it. But to add Amazon Prime for a TV show, I don't know. I'd have to see a little more than a Super Bowl ad before I'd do it.
So I think this would be hard to justify purchasing Amazon Prime, which is $99 for a year, just for this show. However, free 2-day shipping from Amazon and all the other library of free Amazon Prime videos that are available. I think Amazon Prime just in general is a great deal. I've really gotten our money's worth over the years with ordering, diapers and stuff when the kids were younger through Prime and saving money there and whatnot. But I'm excited to see this. I'd say if you're on the fence and you've been considering getting Amazon Prime, this would be an extra sweetener, an extra reason to maybe not do the whole year, but you can just do Amazon Prime on a month-to-month basis and give it a try and see what you think.
Yeah, I don't know that this is necessarily going to add a ton of subscribers to Amazon Prime for them, but I think if nothing else, it gives them another cap in their feather to try and keep up with Netflix. I mean, obviously, Netflix is just that runaway freight train, but Amazon needs more content.
The Amazon Instant Video, the Amazon Prime Video, and the Hulu, though, they've been making a lot of inroads lately. And I mean, everyone and their dog is coming up with their own streaming service now. And Amazon freaking had last year won Best Picture for a movie that was an Amazon Prime or an Amazon movie. So I mean,
right.
They're no slouches here. I mean.
Yeah, they're not. And maybe this is just me, and maybe people listening to this are going to say you're crazy, but we've had Amazon Prime for years, and generally I don't watch Amazon. We watch Netflix all the time. I don't even really think a lot of times to watch Amazon Prime, but I will for this.
Yeah, we typically watch Netflix first. And then if we're looking for something specific and it's not on Netflix, then we'll check Amazon. And a lot of times it's on Amazon. So that's when we'll watch it over there. Okay, Josh. So here's the last one. And this is the big one. There was a teaser for Solo, a Star Wars movie. And then today, the full trailer released. Give me your opinions on this trailer. What do you think?
I am really, really conflicted. Because since Disney bought Star Wars, I've enjoyed all the movies. Even for as much as people rip on Last Jedi, I really enjoyed it, and I'm not going to, go into a breakdown there. But for me, it was really enjoyable for what it was. I don't expect Star Wars movies to necessarily be, flawless, and once again to be necessarily something that critics will love, but it's just kind of that, just something you go in for a fun time. Rogue One was great. However, my biggest concern here, and I don't think the trailer did anything to make me think otherwise, and I don't know that it could, but my biggest concern is when I think of Han Solo, I'm going to forever think of Harrison Ford. And I get it, you're not going to have Harrison Ford now play the role of young Han Solo. That's, ridiculous. And I'm not saying that, but it's just going to be really hard for me to see anyone else in the role of Han Solo and to accept it. It's one thing if you're, like the Harry Potter series when the actor, and something Harris, I forgot his name. Richard Harris, thank you. When he died, so obviously he couldn't continue on as Dumbledore, that was hard. But, there was 7 more movies?
Right. 6 more. Yeah, I think he died after the second movie.
He did. He died after the second movie, and I want to say there was 9 movies because
there was 8.
Well, didn't they split the last one up into 2 movies? The last book up into 2 movies? Wasn't there 8 books?
7 books.
Okay, I was thinking for some reason I was thinking 8 books and 9 movies, but okay, I'm off by 1. Either way, I mean, at least there you had time to get used to it. But if it's just going to be kind of a one-off movie, I don't know. He's got a decent look. His voice though did not have that gruff kind of sound to me that I was expecting for Han Solo. And not that anyone you're going to be like, oh, that's a perfect, spot on Han Solo, but I wasn't really impressed with the casting.
The casting though of Chewbacca is spot on.
Yeah, way to go there, Disney.
Okay, so here let's talk about casting for a second. The guy that's playing Han Solo, I agree. He kind of has somewhat of the look. He's kind of within the ballpark of what you would think of a younger Han Solo.
Right.
But I also know that this movie replaced their directors. There was 2 directors that had their own vision, and it wasn't kind of jiving with Lucasfilm and Disney. And so they were, they walked or they were let go. It sounds like they were let go. And then Ron Howard came in, and then he ordered a whole bunch of reshoots. And so the movie went into a bunch of reshoots. And I've heard that this guy can't act very well.
Yeah, I heard that too, that they had to bring in acting coaches for him. And
Right. Now, granted, Harrison Ford, when he started, wasn't that great of an actor. He's definitely become a great actor, but like the first Star Wars movie, I mean, it probably was a lot of typecasting more than,
right.
real acting.
But to be fair, everyone talks about Star Wars in such reverence. And I'm not, I love Star Wars too. I'm not trying to knock on it. But you go back and you watch A New Hope, and Mark Hamill was not a great actor.
The dialogue is very wooden. It's very, lifeless in parts. Yeah. I mean,
but at the same point, I don't think that should necessarily be an excuse now for, for a newer generation and a newer cast. Be like, well, the older movies, the acting and the story wasn't always necessarily top notch, but it was just so much fun overall that no one seemed to really care a whole lot.
So I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about the guy playing Han Solo. I think I need to see a bigger trailer to get a better sense. Now, here's the thing. Donald Glover, who they've cast to play Lando, is freaking spot on. From the moment I heard Donald Glover was announced to play Lando, I was excited because I know what he can do as a comedic actor. And we saw him in Spider-Man Homecoming, where he wasn't playing necessarily like a comedic actor, but just kind of a guy. He was also in, what was that movie? Gravity? Where he's, no.
Not Gravity.
Yeah. No,
was it?
Was it Gravity?
Man, I've seen, was he in Gravity?
I'm trying to think.
I don't know.
It's the space movie where he's the one trying to help them. Oh no, it was the Martian. Sorry, it was The Martian, where he's trying to help them figure out what they're going to have to do in order to get back, get the crew back to him, and how to slingshot around the moon or whatever it was. And he was playing a serious character there, so he's got some serious acting chops. He looks the part. He kind of has that wry little smile that Billy D. Williams had.
I was gonna say kind of that little bit of cockiness to him.
Yes. I think that casting is perfect.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I was looking at Twitter's reaction to the trailer, and one of the themes you saw over and over again was everyone loved Lando. However, I don't remember who said this, and I'm paraphrasing, but I thought this tweet was kind of spot on. It was basically saying, Lando was amazing. However, this is not Lando, a Star Wars movie.
Right.
And and actually in the teaser trailer that they showed at the Super Bowl, not the full one, they hardly, you just kind of saw Han from kind of far away or in a shadow. Right. And I don't think he even, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think in the teaser trailer he had any dialogue. In the full one he did.
He did. He did in the teaser.
It must have been minimal.
They were asking him what he wanted to do. And he's I want to be a pilot. And, it's kind of when he was in the Imperial Academy.
So there was, some of the narration, but
right.
It kind of felt like the teaser trailer, almost like they were trying to hide him as much as they could, which
maybe
scares me because it felt like they didn't make him the centerpiece of the teaser trailer. It was kind of like everything else in the world they were showing, but they were trying to show, and maybe because it is a teaser, they're trying to,
right.
Not show a ton of him.
This trailer reminded me a lot of the trailer for Rogue One, where there was nuggets that interested me, but I didn't know enough. I don't know if this movie is a heist movie. I don't know if this movie is about a thieving crew. I don't know if this movie is about Han freeing Chewie, or if it's about him, leaving the academy. The trailer didn't give us enough to kind of give us an idea of what the tone of the movie was. Whereas eventually with Rogue One's teaser at the very, very beginning, we didn't know what it was. But then when you got the full trailer, you're like, oh, this is when they're going to try to steal the Death Star plans. So this is going to be a heist movie. And that that's what it is. This doesn't give you that indication one way or another.
I'm just really fearful that the actor in Alden, I don't know how you say his last name.
Ehrlich.
Is it Ehrlich? It's German looking, but I guess he's an American guy. he just didn't seem animated enough. I mean, Han Solo is just he really is, in the true sense of the word, a character.
Yeah.
You know, he
Cocky,
this guy just,
always, and
yeah,
full
this
of
guy
himself,
just seemed a little too just lifeless to me. So I definitely have concerns with him as Solo. I mean, like I said earlier, it's going to be hard enough for me to believe anyone else is Han Solo, but if you don't get the attitude right, you know, and set the right tone, it's just going to fall flat.
So, do you go see this movie in the theater?
As much as I've ripped on it, I think more out of intrigue and more for me, the fact that, and people that don't like The Last Jedi, you know, might feel differently, but I feel like at least the way that Disney, the treatment that they've done to the Star Wars movies so far, I think they've earned the right for me to go see it even with my doubts. That just based on the merits of the other movies alone, I at least have to give it a shot. And I might come out of it and I might have the same reaction that I had with like Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy, which I know I ruffled some feathers by saying that they were mediocre. But, you know, I might have that same reaction where I go in and just, it doesn't do much for me. But since it is Star Wars, you know, if you're listening to the Fortress of Nerditude, I think you have to go see a Star Wars movie in the theater.
Right. I'm going to go see it in the theater because it's a Star Wars movie and because I want it to be good. Now, I've got my reservations. I mean, the whole, like, you know, firing the directors and bringing in someone new and a whole bunch of reshoots and the things like, you know, hearing that the main guy can't act and they're bringing in acting coaches like while they're filming the movie, and the fact that like we just saw something for the movie finally in the beginning of February and the movie comes out in the end of May. Like,
right.
There are some red flags that make me really, really cautious, but I'm going to go see this in the theater, and I'm going to recommend, if you're listening to the podcast and you're on the fence, go see it in the theater, because if it does turn out to be a fantastic movie, you're not going to want to miss it in the theater. If it turns out to be an okay movie or even kind of a stinker for Star Wars, I mean, you know, it is what it is.
And here's the thing too, with a Star Wars movie, if you have any interest whatsoever, you need to see it in the theater because it's going to be talked about.
Everyone's going to spoil it. Yep.
For better or for worse, whether it's amazing or whether it's a, you know, flaming turd, everyone will be talking. It's going to be one of those water cooler things where, you know, the Monday after it comes out, everyone at work is going to say, "Hey, what did you think of, you know, what do you think of what do you think of Solo?"
Right.
And
Absolutely.
It's going to be hard to avoid it. You know, if you're on social media, all that type of stuff, you're going to find out about it. So just go see it.
So a lot of movie trailers came out. I'm going to say, if I'm looking at the kind of the five we're talking about, that I'm most hyped about just based on the trailer we saw, not kind of everything else, but just based on the trailer we saw, I'm going to say that the Jack Ryan series on Amazon Prime is probably the best trailer I saw that got me the most excited for something.
Okay. For me, I'm going to have to go with Mission Impossible.
Okay.
Everything from the music to just the way the trailer was stitched together. Like I mentioned before, showing his wife, showing, you know, a little bit of action, a little bit of the plot with the conflict of, and I don't know the character's name, but basically the lady who was saying, you know, are you really going to go through with this? And, you know, basically you're going to have to go through me. And it shows a scene of her holding the gun as he's driving his car and she's pointing right at him. I don't know. For me, Mission Impossible looks like it has a potential to be really interesting. So that was my favorite. Are we going to talk about least favorite?
Yeah, sure. What was your least? Keep it quick though. What was your least?
That was definitely Skyscraper.
Skyscraper.
I mean, like I said, I'll probably still watch it at some point, but I laughed when it's not supposed to be a comedy, so that's never a good sign in a trailer when you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely out of the ones we talked about, I'm least excited for that, but I'll movie pass it. I'll make it happen that way. And I can give you a more detailed review before you Redbox it for $1.
Yeah, it's definitely a red box.
Well, and anyway, thank you, Josh, for coming here. I want to ask our super friends the question of the week. I want to hear what movie you were most impressed by, based on the teaser trailers or the full trailers from the Super Bowl. The Solo, a Star Wars movie, Mission Impossible, Fallout, Skyscraper, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, or Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. Or maybe there was another one that we didn't talk about.
There was one we didn't talk about.
Okay. Well, if that...
But I don't know if it was, the first time showing the trailer. I probably should know this.
Which one?
Infinity War. I'm sure the trailer's already been out.
Yeah, the trailer's already been out. It was just kind of it was a new TV spot, but it really didn't add a lot to that. There was a couple of very small things that were seen, which is why I kind of didn't choose to talk about it tonight.
Right.
Because I'm super pumped for that. So, but Super Friends, let me know which movie trailer or teaser trailer stood out to you. You can let us know all the usual ways. Email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com, @fortofnerd on Twitter, facebook.com/fortofnerd, or our phone number, 801-477-7687. Josh, thank you for being here again. How can our super friends find you out there on the social medias, and what are you doing where they can hunt you down?
Yeah, on YouTube, I have, like I mentioned before, I have a channel called Raising a Gamer. Every other Thursday, come out with a new video where me and my son, who goes by on YouTube the name Cool Knight, where Cool Knight and I play a game together and then talk about it, anything from a newer game to an old Nintendo game and everything in between. So we have the day that this drops, we'll have a new video coming out. I'd tell you what it was, but I've edited 3 or 4 videos that are all scheduled. I've forgotten which one out of the bunch it is, but you can find us at Raising a Gamer on YouTube. Also, if you want to find me and interact with me, probably the best place would be Twitter, and I'm at MTTG Street Team on Twitter.
Okay, thank you once again.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
For all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude, may the Force be with you. Always.